everyone on YouTube, welcome to another tutorial. Today I'm going to be continuing the Scooterboy series. So on the last video we drew this guy. I looked over the file just now and there were a few issues with it, so if you did follow along, double check your layers. For example, I had errors with the calf, still had a little bit of the shoulder from the torso in it. On one of the layers, I think it was the calf anyways. So just double check your layers, go through them and make sure each artwork is actually correct and you haven't got artifacts from any of the other layers. I've fixed this file now, which will be uploaded online with the video, so if it's easier for you to just download it, then go ahead. So today we're going to be rigging this guy and I'm going to be showing you a few sort of key poses, I guess, during the skate, and we'll animate the background, which I'm just going to import from my old file to save time on illustrating trees. I'm sure you know how to do that. So we're going to be using DUIK to rig. If you want to find DUIK, you would type in DUIK and it should be the first link, which is here. When you click on it, there we go. And then you just click on the downloads, and then if you just go to the installer for your machine, so whether you're running Windows or Mac, you choose which one, click on it, and it's a really simple process. It will automatically install onto any version of After Effects you've got on your machine, which is really handy. If you notice at the minute as well, there's this countdown. DUIK are doing a Indiegogo crowdfunding campaign. So he's basically trying to make 10,000 euros, because he's French, I believe, to support the new version of DUIK, because the guy does it all in his free time. So if you have got any cash you can spare, I highly recommend donating him a few quid to help keep these tools free, basically. Anyways, let's go ahead and jump into After Effects. So we're going to start by importing our character, and then you're going to want to import it as composition, retain layer sizes, and we'll click import. And we'll open this up. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is we have this joints layer. If you have the tool explode shape layers, I highly recommend it. What you can do is convert vector artwork into artwork in After Effects, which is really handy. So we can delete that layer, and then with the explode button we're going to ungroup the layer, basically, so we get a new layer for each of the circles, which is super handy for what we're going to do, because we want our, if we go back to our artwork, these circles, if I press Command Y, determine where the pivot points are for our rotation of our limbs. So we want the anchor points in After Effects to be perfectly on these X's on these circles. So by exploding our layers, we get the dead center of every single one as an individual. So then we can press Command R to drop in some rulers and find the center of each circle. So I'm just going to quickly work on the legs. So we're just going to drop the rulers in as in the center, as close as possible. My words are not working right now. Like so. And finally these feet layers. And obviously the way we drew the character, pretty much in symmetry, which means those should be fine with all those rulers. And then we're going to hold Command Alt Shift and semicolon. What that will do is lock our guides so we can't accidentally move them now. We're going to quickly select the background layer. It's going to lock that and we'll shy it, pressing this one here to get rid of it. So the next step is to start parenting our layers. Sorry, no, it's to change the anchor points. So on the calf, I'll start with the behind foot or leg. So with the calf, with the thigh, sorry, we'll just drag this until it snaps to the ruler, which, as you can see, mine isn't snapping currently. So we're going to go up to Window, View, sorry, and we're going to turn on Snap to Guides, and I'll put it perfectly in the center where we put our guides down. I'm going to do the same for the calf. And finally the shoe. So now we'll parent these layers up. So we want the foot to be attached to the calf to the thigh, and then we can do a quick test if this is working by selecting all the layers, pressing R for rotation, and as you can see, we're getting nice fluid rotations in this leg, which is what we want. Press Command Z for now to go back to 0. So we're going to need to add a controller to this rig using DUIK. So we're going to select the controller in the DUIK panel, and we're going to select, here we have the rotation property. This one is X and Y on the position. Make sure all three of these arrows are ticked, and then this is the size of your controller, but medium should be fine, and I'm going to color it green. We're going to click Create. If we scroll to the top, we'll now get this controller layer where our shoe was positioned. So we'll just drag this down in position, and we'll name this to leg B for behind. I'm going to select all of these layers and just color them green, so we've got visual structure going on in our layers panel as well. So now we're going to build the IK system. So when we move this controller, because currently if I select it and move it, nothing happens. So we want this, so when we move the controller, the artwork bends. So what we're going to do is select the controller layer first, holding Command, select the thigh, then the calf, then the shoe. So you're basically going top down, so the start of the rig, the middle point, and the end point. Now we're going to go to the IK tab here and select 2-layer IK and goal and click Create. So this will add some fancy expressions, but it allows us to move the controller and our artwork bends, and we get this cool sort of stretch where the artwork breaks, so we know if we've gone too far, and we can just make sure the shoe's always connected, which is quite a nice little feature. So as you could tell there, our leg was bending the wrong way. So if we go up to the calf B, which was before we renamed it, and we're going to select this clockwise button, what this will do is change the direction of the bend, like so. And now we can unshy those layers, and we'll move on to do the next layer, the next foot, sorry. So again, we're going to press Y on the calf. We're just going to knock it up to this red circle here. On the thigh, we'll do the same. And finally, the shoe. So we're going to just quickly color these red. We're going to link the shoe to the calf and the thigh, calf to the thigh, and then on the shoe we're going to make a new controller. I'm going to color this one red. These are all ticked, which is what we want, and we're going to create. I'm going to drag this down so it's above the layer stack. I say color it red and rename this if I can type. I don't like my keyboard at home, it's too small. So this is leg F for front. So now we have this layer selected. We're going to hold Command and we're going to go thigh, calf, shoe, IK, create. Again, we're going to need to tick this clockwise checkbox, I believe. We're just going to test this, and yeah, that's working how we want it to. Press Command Z, and we'll do a save. So we're going to hold Command Alt Shift and semicolon. We're going to remove our rulers so far just for a bit of a cleanup. So we're finished with the legs, and then we're going to move on to the arms. So again, select the point. I'm going to zoom right in on this point and get a ruler as close to the center as possible. So this one here, just going to colour this one a lighter colour. That's the elbow for the hand behind, and this is the actual hand. So we just change the colour of that one just so we can remember which one we're linking up to. Do nicely. So again, Command Alt Shift semicolon, lock up those rulers, and we will select these layers. So my hand F is above all of the other layers because of the layer stack. So we're going to select hand F, forearm and arm. We're going to make these ones blue. So again, I'm going to press Y, link the arm up to the shoulder point, the forearm to the elbow, and the arm in the front to this rotation point here. And we'll start to parent. So the hand's going to be linked to the forearm to the arm, and that's what we need. So we're going to select the hand, make a controller. I'm going to make this one blue. Just going to check it here, and we're going to call this arm F. Alright, so now we're going to select the controller layer, the arm, forearm, and finally the hand. IK, 2-layer goal, create. So now we should be able to move this, and we've got our arm moving like so. That's what we want. And last time, let's do the hand in the back. So let's just select all of these layers like so. I'm going to make these ones yellow. Start with the hand. Let's link up to these circles. Now remember, we're going to the, I haven't put a ruler in on this one. Go to this light pink one here for the elbow. And up to this shoulder point here. So forearm links to the arm, the hand to the forearm, and we're going to make our last controller yellow and create. We'll drop this down like so, and we're going to rename this arm B. Change this one to yellow. And we will do the hierarchy, holding command once again, arm, forearm, hand, IK, create, and here we go. We're getting this nice bend going on with the hand, and we can leave that as it is. Do a quick save. I'm gonna hold Shift Alt, semicolon, and Control, and we're going to remove these new rulers because we do not need them anymore. So that is our limbs IK created. Now we're just going to drop in some more rulers for our final little bits of the rig. So we want our head to rotate here. So if we find our head layer, bearing in mind we have the hat and the hair, so let's parent these to the head. As you can see here, the hair up the top here is coming through the hat. So what we're going to do is make a mask for the hair, so when the hat's on his head we lose this bit of artwork. So let's just deselect. So what we're going to do is draw a square like so. We'll call this mask. Let's get more specific. Let's call this hair mask. And we're going to drag it above the hair layer, which is here. On the hair layer, we're going to toggle modes so we get the track layers, and we're going to alpha matte the mask. So right now we're going to alpha inverted mask. So what that means, when this square is here, because it's inverted, the hair will disappear. So if I move this square, you'll see it reveals it again. So what we're going to do now is link this mask to the hat. So wherever we move the hat, it can cover up the hair, which is what we want. So we're going to lock that mask layer, and we're just going to shy it because we don't need it. We don't really need the hair now that it's parented either, so let's lock and shy that. Let's make the hair layers bright pink. So the head, press Y, and we're going to change the rotation point here, and so we get this rotation like so. And there's an issue with the artwork. Fuck, I thought I'd fixed all that. Okay, it's not an issue. So clearly we don't need the neck attached, we needed that on a separate layer, which I have messed up again. I thought I checked all of it, maybe not. I'll correct this now, but in the file I upload online, the neck will be on a separate layer for you guys. So what I'm going to do is just draw a new rectangle for the neck. I'm going to use the Mount Monograph anchor point tool and center that up. It's a good thing you guys have openly expressed that you like my fuck ups, because I don't have to do a lot of them. Right, so here's the neck layer, which we'll put below the head, and I'm going to make this purple pink as well. So the head will rotate here, so we're going to have to quickly fix this, which is probably going to break a lot of stuff because it usually does. So in the head layer, we're just going to select this and this, and we're going to delete those and hit save. Now this will update our artwork, which actually didn't break it, which is fine. Maybe it did. Yeah, it definitely did. Okay, so we're just going to try and position it so about there. And obviously we need to move our rotation point again now, because it's shifted the artwork basically. But yeah, now when we rotate the head, it's attached to the neck. And then we can set the neck rotation point to this circle here. Like so. So we can parent the head to the neck, and we can rotate both of these layers like so. Let's just do a clean up again. We will ditch these rulers because we do not need them. I believe we've rigged everything now. All we need to do is No, we haven't, sorry, no. So we've got the torso, which is this section. So we want to parent this to the hips. I'm just going to colour these orange. So the torso will be linked to the hips, which we have the center point here. So when we rotate these, it moves with the hips, which is what we want. But as you'll see, currently nothing is rigged up, so we'll be leaving all the limbs and stuff behind. So the last stage is to get our arms, link these to the torso, the neck. Oh, that's a long list. To the torso. Finally, our thighs, link to the hips. So now if we rotate, we get some interesting stuff going on. This is what we want, and we can do the position. So now when we move the hips, you can see we get the bend in the knees, and everything's pretty much animating for us, which is really cool about the IK rigs. Lastly, we've got the scooter. It's going to parent both wheels to the scooter, and our hand controllers. My computer is spazzing out a little bit here. Our hand controllers to the scooter. So now if we move the scooter, the hands remain attached. So actually we're going to link all of the controllers. Remembering how you've animated things in the past can be tricky. So basically I'm going to link everything to the scooter. I believe we'll have to do the hips too. So now our scooter will act as almost like a master layer, so we can move this guy wherever we want, and it'll be linked to the scooter, which is pretty nice. With the scooter, I'm going to move the rotation point to the back of this wheel, something like this. Actually, we'll do it to the floor, to this part, so we can add a rotation to make it look like he's doing a wheelie. It's pretty cool. Right, I believe we're good to go. I'm going to start by just locking the scooter layers, and I'm just going to shy them for now because we don't need it. I'm going to select all of these joints, delete those, chuck in a save. For now, I'm not going to play with the hat, so we're going to get rid of that. Because we've got these controllers, we can select all of these layers, lock them, and we can shy. Oh, by the way, hit tilde on any panel and you can full screen that. So we can full screen the layers panel so we can see what we're doing. So we're going to do the same for all the artwork that we don't need to control. Just going to lock them and shy it away so we can basically clean up our layers panel and just control what we need to see. So we're going to be animating the position values, the position and rotation of the hips. So we'll just put in some keyframes. We don't need the torso actually, let's remove that. I'm not actually going to animate these hands because they're attached to the scooter. He's going to be holding on the entire time, so we don't need those either. So now we're going to control this guy with just these 5 layers, which is nice and simple. Let's quickly, we'll unshine our scooter layer, and we will animate the position and rotation properties of the scooter, like so. So now we have a nice and clean layers panel, and everything should be rigged up nicely. So I'm just going to show you how to quickly animate out a slight sort of push and pedal sequence. So we will start with him a little bit lowered. Okay. So we'll drop the hips a bit so he's got a nice bend in his knees. We're going to come forward about 8 frames, and I'm going to push his hips forward and up until this leg here, the back leg, sort of has a bit of a bend, but it's pretty much straight. And the front leg, we're just going to drag up and high. So we can also rotate the rotation of these handles, which will control our foot. Now I've got an issue here. I want the leg to be on top of the scooter, not behind it. So we're just going to quickly unlock all of our green layers, not our green layers, sorry, our red layers. Select all of these and bring it above the scooter, which is here. We'll lock these up again and hit shy. So now it's in front, which is what we want. So this is going to be him beginning the kick, and we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the downwards motion. So we're going to just bring the hip down, maybe a little bit further forward again. We'll rotate it a bit more. And as you can see, this is starting to break now. So we'll get this to a point where we like it, where the foot's touching the ground nicely. If you hold Control or Command whilst you're scrubbing through these layers, it shortens the distance it moves or rotates, which is pretty nice. So as we've got this ruler in for the ground, which I'm going to keep actually in lock, we can line up the foot so it looks like it's touching the ground, like so. And as you can see, our legs are broke, so we're just going to lower the hip until he's like so. Now his head's a bit close, so let's just adjust that rotation. So now we've got him raising his leg. Let's exaggerate this up a little bit more. Nice bend in the knee, which he's going to slam down, and really quickly, say 3 frames, sorry, we're going to slide this foot all the way back, and we're going to move the hip back with it slightly. So we've got this raised up, stomped down, and slide motion. Now as you can see, the foot is now moved off of the ground layer, and it's because of our hips. As you can see, the motion curve here is telling it to curve down and up, which we don't want. So with the Convert Vertices tool, you can grab the layer handles. So if we click on that one, we're going to remove the handle. With V, we're going to select this one here, and we're going to straighten out this handle. So there is a dead straight motion. If you hold Alt, you can then adjust the handle individually. Once you've clicked Alt once, you don't have to do it again, so we can adjust this one So let's just smooth this motion out a little bit. So we're going to have a nice up, a sort of arced motion, down, flat. So now our foot should slide across the floor pretty nicely. We might have the same issue going on with our leg layer. As you can see, got this arc. So with these controllers, if you use the vertices tool, you're going to start to mess up. You could mess up the artwork because these are paths. As you can see, we've got all the path details here. I'm trying to mess it up, but it's not working out. But it can happen. To ensure that doesn't happen, just untick this visibility, so the mask and path visibility, and then we can only control the motion path. So if we remove that section with V, we're going to straighten this part out, and again we're going to hold Alt and change the path. So again we're just going to make a nice smooth arc motion, arcing up, slamming down. Let's have a preview. So now we've got a foot stomp, which is looking pretty cool. Let's go back 5 frames or so, and we're just going to straighten him back up. So the center point is around here. We'll give him a bit of a lean back. And where's the leg? We'll put this back on. So what I can do here is copy the first frame and rotation value. So he's back standing on his sort of podium. But that's a boring motion for the back of the foot. We want it to sort of raise up before it comes down. So we're just going to add this extra motion. So he's stomped, raised up, and back on. Cool. Let's add in some extra rotations. So his foot, up until this point we're going to need this keyframe so it's nice and still, but then he's going to flick his foot and back on. Here we're going to bend the foot as if it's still attached, so there's going to be a delay. He's going to lift it up. We're going to exaggerate this so it flicks over on itself and hits the floor. Now we can make these motions nicer by jumping into the graph editor. Can easily use these keyframes, but we're gonna make this quick to happen, so the foot bends quickly, like so. We're gonna hold this motion, so it holds for a bit before it flicks up, and then on the flick going down, we want it to pretty much be flat there at the very end. So we're gonna adjust the speed graph here so it holds it and stomps down flat. Boom. And then this is, as you can see here, it's a straight line. That means there's no motion going on. Here, again, we're going to tighten this section up because we want it to be quick to flick. And we're going to make him hold the flick and eventually land flat. So if we were to preview that motion now, the foot looks so much nicer than what it did before. The overall timing's a bit slow, so we could play with that. But let's start by just selecting the position of the hips, and the leg, and we're going to do some graph editor work on both of these layers at the same time, as we've got a keyframe in each position bar this one here, which is the ankle flick here. We can generally work on the speed of the character together. Callum likes my video. Right, here we go. So we're going to hold this top point as if he's emphasizing. So he's going to do a quick lift up, hold on it before slamming down pretty hard. So we're going to tighten up this section to make it slam. I want this to be a sort of quick motion here, and it begins to slow down towards the end when he's lost pressure from the slam, and then this will be a very quick motion. I'm now going to just control the hips, so I want a nice quick to sort of slow motion when he pulls back up, and then we've got this little finesse detail here for the foot. We're going to hold down Command, click on this keyframe twice to turn it into a continuous bezier. What this does now is, if I zoom in, you'll see the handles are attached, whereas if I move this one, I can move both sides. So I'm going to just give this an eased out motion, so it's holded in this sort of suspense area in the air, but by raising it off of the baseline, it means it's going to be constantly moving, so it will be slow but still moving, whereas when it hits the bottom, that is a complete stop in the motion. Whereas I want this to be one fluid motion, but obviously slower on this flick part. So let's just do a preview, and with a bit of graph work, that is looking much better. This top half looks really stiff because we haven't animated the head, and we could give some life into the rotation. So again, we're going to select all of these keyframes, going to clone them up, easy use them. So I'm going to do a similar thing at this high point. I want to hold the holds, hold the rotation, hold the hold. I am not using words very well. It's hard to explain graph work whilst you're doing it. So I want him to rotate quickly, hold this rotation. Let's exaggerate that a little bit. It's going to hold that and push forwards in a quick motion. And again, I want quick here. Let's add in another frame. Let's bend him right back. Quick to slow, and I'm going to make a smooth curve. Again, with the graph editor, it's about making the curves as smooth as possible. That generally makes a nicer motion. So this is looking really smooth. This is all looking pretty nice and smooth. This section we could change a little bit, so we've still got this nice smooth hold and a nice V here, which means it's going to be a very sharp quick motion. I'll just say, and that is looking pretty cool. Got the nice flick in the shoe. Feels like he's really putting some power down on his kick, which is pretty sweet. Let's add some head rotation and to the neck. So on this section, I'm gonna bend his neck upwards, maybe his head slightly, so he's still looking forward. On the slam, let's just straighten this up a little bit. Basically just going to try and keep his head straight, and I'm just going to clone this keyframes from the start back to the end. I'm going to select both of these frames and we're going to control the speed graph together. So here I'm going to add this kind of hold at the rotation point. It's sort of slower to start motion on the head, so there's a bit of like a whiplashy delay effect. It's going to hit hard here, so this is going to be a quick rotation, and I'm just going to smooth out the final part of the rotation. Hit save, and let's preview. That's looking cool. What we're going to do now is select all these frames for the head and the neck. Just going to knock them forward one, and with the head I'm going to knock that forward another one, so there'll be like almost a ripple effect. Let's see how that looks. Oh, that's not working as well as I thought it would. I'm going to knock the head back. That looks cool. I think the neck and the head need to be kind of in sync a bit more. It's looking sweet. Now we could animate the hat as well, but I'm considering that as secondary animation at the moment, so I just want to get the first motion right. I'm pretty happy with that. Now what we can do now as well is, as soon as the foot hits here with the scooter position, I'm going to come forward to the last frame where his foot's on the back, and I'm going to slide it forward quite a bit, and then I'm going to give it 15 frames to return back, so it's going to look like there's the kick has propelled his motion forward. So I'm going to hold this quite nicely and smooth out the way it returns. I'm going to want it to be a really sharp, sudden motion. Again, we're going to select this keyframe, turn it into a Bezier, so it's constantly moving just at a slow rate. Just drag it up slightly, make this really sharp at the start. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, that is very sharp. Maybe we'll play around with this a little bit. Let's just do some tests. And it feels like it's taking too long, too quick to return as well. So let's just slow this down. Let's try this type of curve. So we've got this kind of delayed motion back to center. Still feels too sharp. This is the fun with the graph editor. You can just get in, get real dirty, just play around with it until you get something that looks nice. And I'm not gonna lie, it is confusing to begin with, learning how to control these curves. Oh, I think that's looking nicer. I still think it could be a slower return to center. So it's like the way I see this is the camera's following this guy, and when he pushes, he gets away from the camera slightly, and then the camera catches up and he comes back into the center of the frame. That's pretty cool. I don't want to spend too much time focusing on this. Let's add in a jump, and then I'm going to call it a day because this is going to be a long tutorial otherwise, because I've covered rigging and a little bit of character movement, but one foot slap down isn't very impressive. Let's do something else. So as he's starting to fall back here, let's adjust his positioning. So his hips are going to come forward and he's going to bend pretty low down. I'm going to make him hug the top here. With the head and the neck, I'm going to tuck these in as well, as if his whole body's kind of curling. So he's putting all this like kind of downward force onto the bottom of the scooter, and then we're going to accelerate him basically. So at the minute our curve's sort of like a C. If we do an inverted curve, so we're going to 1, 2, 3. I'm going to select all of these frames using Mark Mograph's cloner. I'm going to copy them identical, and if you hold Command and Alt on the old keyframes, this will turn it into a hold frame. So if we look at the graph, we get this dead sharp line, which is what we want. So this is going to be a pause for the impact to happen. What's the word? Anticipation is what I'm looking for. So it's anticipating the next movement. So he's bent down, he's holding, and now he's going to accelerate ridiculously quick into the upward thrust. So I'm going to bend him back, shoot this body right up and back here. Now I've gone a bit too far and I'm breaking my limbs, so let's try and sort them out. Let's do the neck backwards, the head as well. So what we're going to do, select all of these, jump into the graph. So we're going to want this to be explosive, so really quick and sharp at the front. Boom. That's what we want. And with the scooter position and rotation, we're going to fire these up quickly as well. So it's going to rotate slightly backwards and fire upwards. Now actually we're getting a slight issue here with the rotation, the position of the scooter, sorry, because we're controlling the X and the Y almost as individuals at this moment. I'm going to separate these dimensions. With the Y, I'm going to just delete these frames because I don't need them, and we would have broken our X slightly. So we're just gonna have to jump in here and redo the graph. I wanted something like that. So now when it explodes upwards, it's only on the Y that we're controlling. So we can copy those back. With the rotation though, we're going to hold, we're going to rotate it further out until it hits the floor with the back wheel, like so, and slam down So let's just, so in the center here we're going to want a nice hold, and it's going to, the way gravity works is there will be a pause before it builds up momentum and hits the floor again. So I'm going to do that and slam it down. Boom. With the Y, we'll do a similar sort of motion. So we're going to hold it at its peak. These are going to be sharp because it's an explosive movement to start, and when it builds up gravity and inertia going back down, boom. Let's just do a B there and an N. Let's just test this. So we got this kind of explosive jump movement, which is looking cool on the scooter, but terrible on the character so far. So let's just go to here. So as you can see, we've kind of got the nice hold and impact, which is looking pretty sweet. So we just need to animate our character a bit more. I'm going to have him sort of straighten up a little bit here at the height of the fall. And then this next frame is just going to be a complete snap. I'm going to pull him further forward, trying to keep his center balance on the scooter. I might have to adjust the rotation of these shoes in a bit too. Next frame, as the impacts hit the floor, he's going to bend his knees with it, and then we're going to give him time to absorb the impact before springing back up into the start position. So I'm going to clone these frames. That's not looking the best so far. We'll do a cleanup. Right, let's start with the neck in a minute. Let's on the impact. Animation's a weird one because I'm showing you how I animate, but there'll be lessons to be learned from this, but it's all like a matter of sort of personal preference in some way, what you think looks right. I'm trying to do this quickly as well, so it's not going to be perfect, so bear that in mind, but hopefully it gives you an idea. These impacts, I'm going to give them an extra frame. They feel a little bit too sudden at the minute. It's looking good, but I nudged the frame in the wrong direction. Right, so let's just select all of this, and our graph is looking horrible. Let's just reset this. So this is going to be when he's in the air, so he's going to want to hold this motion with the effects of gravity, and to complement the motion we've got on our scooter, the impact's going to be sudden, so we're going to make this really sharp angle here, and it's going to be sharp following through to a smooth motion which continues to follow through, and we're just going to smooth out the end of his return. Can you see there's like a kind of jolty motion here. What that is because we haven't got a continuous Bezier. It's fine on the rotation keyframes, but you'll definitely notice it on the position here because he's going really, so we need this frame here to be constant movement, so we want it to smooth to a stop, but we want this to be constantly moving. So we're just gonna as I mentioned, it's all about making smooth curves. So let's have a look at that. Now you can see that's so much smoother on the impact because we've given this a constant movement to a stop at the end before he pulls back up. Pull up. Pull up. I hope that sort of makes sense. It's really hard to get your head around the speed graph initially, but once you do, you begin to have a lot of fun when you're animating. So yeah, that looks pretty cool. We could do a cleanup on the feet to make sure they're constantly on the scooter, but for the sake of saving some time in this tutorial, I'm not going to bother with that. So what we could do now is add in some keyframes for all of these properties. We'll leave the scooter alone. I'm going to select these new frames, hold Alt and Command, turn them into a hold keyframe, and then we can copy all of these frames. These legs haven't been animated. Let's just turn that layer off. So if we select all of these and the scooter's X position and we hit clone, we can then copy the motion one more time, hit N, and we'll have a nice loop going on. Okay, so there's an issue with the foot. It's sort of flying around here. Where's the issue? Let's find it. It's this part. So what that is on this position here, we've got this handle, which it's hard to show you, but you'll see, if I zoom in, you can see these kind of dots here, so it's telling it that there's motion, even though this position and this position, it's in the same properties. It's hard to show because of the X position of the scooter is moving it, but it is in the same position. But because we've got this handle, and if we look at the graph editor, we can see we've got an arc. That means there's motion going on because of that handle. So the way to get rid of that is to just hold Alt and Control and turn it into a hold keyframe, and that will make sure it's not moving at all, which is what we want. So this is far from perfect, but gives you an idea. Now I could animate the wheels and stuff like that, but I'm not going to go into that detail now. You'll have this file and you can go ahead and do what you want with it. Let's bring in the background. Where did I save it? Scooterboy. Here we go. Okay, my program is crashed. Always good. That's hopefully we saved recently. Oh. Sorry about this, guys. This happens occasionally, as I'm sure you all know. Okay, we got the background layer in, so it's all good. We didn't lose anything. I can't remember how I animated this background. What is each layer? So we've got these trees for the foreground, so just those two there. We've got these sky elements, which I wanted to keep still. Got these rocks on the floor. That's just the background. These are the sort of scenery here. So we got these plants and benches and trees. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna just copy all of these into our scene. And what we're gonna do is just select the rocks and sky and background. We're gonna have to unshy our layers. Make sure these are right at the back, and the foreground we want to be in front of the guy. Just gonna select the position. That's not what we want to do. Before I do that, I'm gonna select the foreground, the background, sky and rocks. No, not the sky, just the background and rocks. Command D to make a copy of these, and we're going to line these boxes up together, something like that. So we've got a loop that we can create out of these trees. So rocks 2 will link to rocks 1. My computer is... come on. Okay, my computer is playing up right now, which is annoying. Would that have done an autosave? It would not have. Oh, I'm sorry about this. This is going to be lengthening out the tutorial. I'm just going to quickly repeat what I just did. Right, so the foreground links to that. So the duplicates we've just done, you link them to the originals. I'm going to safety save like fuck now. So we're going to drag these boxes over so they line up, and adjust the layer hierarchy so these are behind the character but obviously in front of our background. Right, so we're going to animate the position properties of these and the foreground. And I'm going to make an extra foreground layer and drag it across. And I'm going to save in case we crash. So the idea is the foreground is closer to the camera, so these trees will move faster than the background. So I'm going to chuck in some rulers. I'm going to use this point here. So at the end of our loop, which is here. I'm going to slide this position over this way and keep going until we get to our third tree, which is this one here. So this is our third layer of the first repeating, and I'm just going to line it up with this ruler roughly like so. I'm going to do the same for the rocks now. So we're going to go off of this little rock here underneath the scooter wheel. So it should be that one there, I believe. Or have I scrubbed past it already? No, yeah, it's going to be that little rock there. And line that up. For the background, we'll line up to this tree here. Let's do this yellow circle because that's quite bright to see. So I believe it's that tree there. I've got some issues with the wrong background colour here to the one I used when I first made these artworks, so that was just a mask. Let's quickly sort that out. So I'm going to use the explode shape layers to make this into a vector artwork, and I'm just going to pick whip that colour there. Sorted. Right, I believe that should loop quite nicely now. So we got this scene of him riding through the park, and everything should loop nicely. The foreground's moving a bit quicker than the rest of the artwork. I think when I originally did it, I added in more rocks layers as well, so like it gives the back, the trees and stuff in the back more sense of depth. So we had sort of a variety of the foreground moving quicker, the middle moving slightly slower, and then the back moving even slower still. But this is how you get that sort of constant loop and the feeling of depth into a sort of animation. And we've got this kind of inertia push where he's, I don't even know if inertia is the right word, but anyways, where he's getting the sort of advantage on the camera, so he's pushing ahead of it and then coming back. That's kind of how I did it. Obviously with the mask I showed you, you could animate the hat, so when he jumps that could fall off and you'd expose his hair and then it would land back on his head. That's what I had on my GIF. But yeah, that's the general practice behind how I animated that little loop. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. If there's anything you'd like to see in future, please let me know. If you've seen any projects that I've released and you'd like to know how to do it, drop me an email on the tutorials at mattwilson mwmotion.tv, and I'll try to respond when I can. That's all for today's folks. If you've enjoyed this video, like it, share it with your friends, and do all that magic. I'll see you on the next one, guys. Have a good one.